My guest on the Culture Crawl today is Tony Nickel from the Cedar Rapids Opera Theater to talk about this weekend's production of Don Giovanni. Tony, welcome back. Nice to see you.
Thank you, Dennis. Thank you for having me today.
Thanks so much for coming in. I know it's busy with production week and everything. And mounting, you've been on before, and I've had many guests who come with many different productions.
They always enjoy being on your show.
But I think that mounting an opera may be just about the most complex production that ever comes to the stage.
I would say certainly in terms of live theater, it must be. Film is probably competitive in many ways, but the added layer of singing and singing without microphones is definitely something that is not common in any other genre. And it is complicated because you're bringing every one of the theatrical arts together. You're bringing music and acting and directing and costumes and set design and props. And they all have to come together at precisely the right time over and over and over the course of an entire opera. And to put that on its feet with about 2 weeks of rehearsal, which is pretty much the standard for a professional production, give or take, is definitely a challenge. But it's something that we love doing, and we're always learning how to do it better and better. But it really makes for an amazing product in the end.
And I've seen some pictures of the set, and of course we think so much about the singers who come from all over the country to be in the opera. Orchestra Iowa is the pit orchestra. Yeah. I know that your stage director comes from a national background as well, but that set is just amazing.
It is. We've been very lucky over the last few years to have the talents of Rob Sunderman, who is on faculty at Iowa State, designing our sets, and we also use Derek Easton and his crew from Theater Cedar Rapids to build the set. They have great facilities for doing that, so we're lucky to have all of these moving parts to put together a pretty visually striking product. This year, for those of you who have seen the last couple of operas we've had in the Paramount, La Boheme or Carmen, this will be a very different visual than either of those two. It's very conceptual, very surreal, and the word that keeps coming to mind when you hit it with the lighting that we have and the projections that we have, the word that keeps coming to my mind is eerie. And but it's definitely a striking set like we've never had before.
Well, the opera is Don Giovanni by Mozart, one of the most famous operas of all time. But for those who may not be familiar, give me the thumbnail sketch of the plot.
Well, Don Giovanni is just the Italian name for Don Juan, and the story is based on that story that really sort of was codified in the Renaissance. And it's basically the exploits of a nobleman, Don Giovanni, who tries to enjoy in all of the pleasures of life at every turn, primarily his conquests of his many, many women. And he has a servant, a henchman named Leporello. And from the beginning of the opera, everything begins to unravel with one particular event. We see Giovanni being chased out of a house by a woman who he has just tried to attack, and her father comes to defend his honor, or her honor, and Don Giovanni kills him in a sword fight. And the rest of the opera is essentially Giovanni's life unraveling because of this horrible, wicked deed. And a lot of productions will take the comic side of this opera because Mozart definitely put together an opera that's filled with both comedy and drama. And they'll focus on the comedy and paint Don Giovanni more as a cad or somebody who's just up to his old antics again. But our stage director, Bill Ferrara from Oklahoma University, has definitely explored more of the sociopathic side of Don Giovanni. So it's a really dramatic and compelling story as his life just moves toward its ultimate judgment at the end.
Well, and not wanting to, dumb it down in any fashion, but it looks like it kind of plays out like a horror movie.
Yes.
I mean, where the character has a tragic flaw, and then the rest of the production is about the downfall that results from that. And I think that when you said eerie, that's a perfect. I mean, spoilers, but there are zombies at the end.
Yeah, well, spoken like a true author, Dennis. It is a lot like a horror movie, and visually it looks a lot like a really great horror flick.
And, of course, the music is what we go to the opera for. And I know that you have, as always, you bring in top-flight talent from all over the country. Tell us a little bit about those people who are going to be singing the leads.
Well, Don Giovanni is a pretty large cast of lead singers. There are 8 of them. And we have 2 young artists who are very talented, singing the roles of Zerlina and Mazzetto. And the other 6 are a number of talented singers. Christopher Burchett is singing the role of Don Giovanni.
He's been here before.
He has been here before a couple of times, most recently in The Elixir of Love in 2007. And he is just a dramatic tour de force on stage. We have Lee Poulos from Los Angeles singing the role of Leporello, and
and that is really the comedy relief.
He's the comic relief.
It's just hysterical.
He's the comic relief, and he is a perfect fit for this role because he has such a dry sense of humor, and he's brilliant. Lee went to Harvard, and not for music, but for being really smart. He went as a poli-sci major originally, and then he just went into music. And Danielle Telemontis is an amazing soprano who is singing the role of Donna Anna, and she is singing Frasquita in Carmen at the Met immediately after finishing her time here in Cedar Rapids. So we're very lucky to have that.
Cedar Rapids to the Met.
Yeah, right. Veronica Matina is an amazing Donna Elvira. Ruben Casas is the very foreboding Commendatore who is killed by Giovanni at the beginning and makes a somewhat eerie appearance at the end. And just a really, really talented cast. Jonathan Blaylock is Donna Anna's fiance, Don Ottavio, and he has just a gloriously beautiful, pure tenor voice. It's truly one of the most well-sung productions we've ever had, and we're very lucky to have such a talented cast coming to Iowa to sing for all of us here in January.
Talking with Tony Nickel from the Cedar Rapids Opera Theater about Don Giovanni, which opens tomorrow and Sunday at the Paramount Theater. Mm-hmm. Sung in Italian with super titles?
Yes, English super titles projected above the stage.
So you'll be able to easily follow along, although I noticed, and of course I got the chance to see kind of a little preview earlier in the week without super titles, and I didn't have any problem following the story.
That's great.
And that, of course, is part of the outstanding singers and actors that you bring in for this. Tickets still available for each show?
They are, yes.
So how do we get them?
They're available through the Orchestra Iowa Paramount Theater box office. That's 319-366-8203. Or you can go online to www.orchestraiowa.org and click on the Don Giovanni graphic that you see on the landing page.
All right. So tomorrow night is opening night again. Friday night and Sunday afternoon, it's Cedar Rapids Opera Theater with Don Giovanni and, of course, Orchestra Iowa in the pit.
That's right. And I should also mention that our director, Bill Ferrara, is giving a pre-curtain talk 1 hour before the show, both Friday and Sunday over in the Encore Lounge in the Paramount Theater.
So that'll be an opportunity not only to get a little bit more background, but also hear specifically about how he is doing this a little bit differently, as
Absolutely.
you characterized,
Absolutely.
than some of the other productions.
Yeah.
Well, it just sounds like always a stellar production, but this may set the new high water mark for a while. So congratulations, and looking forward to the opera this weekend.
Thank you so much, Dennis, for having me.
Tony Nickel from Cedar Rapids Opera Theater talking about Don Giovanni this weekend at the Paramount Theater.